G'day everyone, and welcome back to another video. Recently the helicopters have just dropped, and a lot of people are finding different ways to play them. Some people seem to be taking to them quite well, and others not so much. In this video I'm going to talk about how I play my helicopters, and how I've figured out what appears to me to be the best way to play a helicopter. So, obviously, you start off in a tank. Don't play your helicopter straight off the bat. If you do, you're going to end up with very few spawn points at the end of the match, and you're not going to set yourself up well for a good match. Obviously, you want to take a good lineup. Don't have more than 2 helicopters in your lineup, and keep a plane as well. If that means sacrificing a helicopter, then do it. And take the one with more ordnance, because you want to go for anti-tank. So for me personally, I'll give you the example of my Americans. I've got my M1 Abrams, my MBT-70, F-84, my AH-1Z, and my M163. In the future, when I get the M1 IP, I'll probably keep that, despite there being potentially better vehicles to use other than the MBT-70, because personally, I like the ATGMs. And the ATGMs will come in handy, and you'll find out a little bit later in this video as to why. Anyway, you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success at the beginning of the match. Take a couple of caps, do what you need to do, get some kills, don't camp. Play with measured aggression. Don't go all balls deep, because you're not going to come out well. I would personally recommend working with your team, grabbing a couple of kills, and then when you die, jump into another tank. Or jump into a plane. Don't jump into a helicopter straight away. The way helicopters seem to function at the moment within War Thunder's top tier meta is they tend to be the cleanup. So a good identification, or a good way to identify that your team has either won or lost the battle, is if there are helicopters up and they're lasting more than 3 minutes. If a helicopter is up and stays up, that means that your team has total air superiority. If they have total air superiority, the enemy team either doesn't have the numbers or doesn't have the spawn points to make a pushback. And that gives you the opportunity to spawn in your helicopter and take them out. Now, if you die that second time and you've got enough spawn points for a helicopter, go for it. Especially when you realize that your team is winning. If your team is losing, don't spawn in a helicopter. If you want to spawn in an aircraft, spawn in a plane. Preferably a fighter with some sort of rocket ordnance. If you spawn in a helicopter, you're extremely vulnerable and you don't have the support. Even if it's SPAA, you don't have the support, because they'll have SPAA, I can guarantee you. Once you are in the air and you're heading towards your target, don't head from the spawn. That's a big one. Never come from the spawn, because that is easily the most predictable place that you can possibly be. Where I would sit, if you have a look at maps like Finland, for example, I would sit over the lake, or just beyond the lake, because that's the furthest from the enemy's helicopter spawn, so you won't be killed by other helicopters. It's decently far and out of the way of the airfields, and it is decently far out of range of SPAA, and in good view of enemy tracks, essentially. So that means that you can get shots on and stay alive, because that is the whole idea of the helicopter. You don't want to be a target, you don't want to be noticed, you want to shoot without being shot at. And spots like that, you will eventually get to know by playing the game more. Personally, I'm still experimenting with that, but at the moment I've found some good spots on Karelia, some good spots on 38th Parallel, and a couple of other spots on Mozdok and a couple of other maps. I've even found a really good one on Berlin, which is essentially, it's very, very close to the enemy's tank spawn, but it allows you to rat out those campers that sit in the north spawn just off the ruined buildings on the side of the Reichstag. And it is really, really easy to ruin a camper's day that way, and nothing makes me more happy than ruining campers. So you'll eventually find them all out. And because there are so many maps, it's not worth going through it at the moment. But you'll learn them in time. I would recommend staying reasonably low, but not so low that you're starting to get within range of other guns, like tank guns, because then that makes you a very easy target to get taken out by ATGMs and APFSDS, which, if I've got the right footage, will be one of these clips that I'll show you. I get taken out by a leopard that I had previously shot at because he found me. It's very easy to see where the ATGM's coming from. And he just absolutely wrecks me. So you've got to be very careful of when you deploy a helicopter, and you've also got to be very careful of where you place your helicopter. It's a very, very sort of fine balancing act, and you've got to get used to it, and it'll only get better with time and practice. But once you figure out roughly where and when to use them and how, it will be very, very easy to potentially rack up kills. But the most important part is knowing when to deploy your helicopter and when to use those spawn points to maximize your effectiveness on the battlefield. If your team is starting to lose caps, I wouldn't go in and cap with a helicopter because it's a massive waste of spawn points. If you're shot down, that's 500 spawn points gone. And that could be 300 for a tank. That's nothing in comparison. So the most important part of flying the helicopters is staying low, staying out of enemy fire, and knowing when to deploy them.